we just check if is the YouTube broadcast as it started? Wonderful, thank you. Morning. I'm Councillor Glyn Guilford, the Vice Chairman of the committee. I'd like to welcome you all to this meeting of the Overview Committee that is being broadcast live and recorded for publication. Can we turn to the minutes of the meeting last time, and can we approve the minutes of the last meeting, please? All in favour? Thank you for that. Okay, are there any apologies, agenda item 2, for absence?
Chairman. So I've received apologies from the Chairman, Councillor Boyd Elliott, for other reasons, and we have Councillor Butler here today who's substituting. Had apologies from Councillor Dave Shaw for other reasons, and Councillor Wilmot is here today substituting for him, and we have also received apologies from Councillor Steve Carr for other reasons. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to those members who are substituted. Thank you. Move on to declarations of interest. Do any members or officers present have any disclosable pecuniary interest to declare? And B, do any members or officers present have any private interest, either pecuniary or non-pecuniary, to declare? No. Right, thank you. We can move on then. Thank you for that. Next item is agenda item 4, and it's the outcome of the scrutiny review of consultation and resident engagement. Just to introduce the report, members, the report before you lays out for the Overview Committee the findings that have arisen from the task and finish review of the Council's consultations and resident engagement. And it's here to seek your endorsement for the recommendations to be submitted to the Cabinet for consideration. Members of the review group met 3 times. The first meeting was to consider the Council's approach to consultation and resident engagement. The second meeting was focused on the budget consultation with residents. And the final meeting was enabled members of the group to consider and discuss the information received and to agree the final recommendations. The recommendations and reading behind those recommendations are contained within the report, which I would hope members would support. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Isabel Fleming, Service Director Transformation and Change, Nival Stevenson, Service Director Finance Infrastructure Improvement, and Luke Barrett, Group Manager for Communications and Marketing, and Ross Scott, the Policy Manager, as well as all the other officers who attended the first meeting of the review group for their invaluable support provided during this process. Can I move the recommendations and ask for a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Smith. That's been seconded. And it's going to be open for discussion, and then I'll bring any officers in who may have comments, etc. Yeah, Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chairman. I note that the penultimate bullet point on paragraph 14 says that, unlike some local authorities, Nottinghamshire County Council doesn't have a dedicated consultation team, and that it's done separately within departments. But I'm pleased to see that recommendation 7 is that's been mitigated by those who did the review, which I think is good work, because recommendation 7 is that we share results and how that's done and feedback between departments to help ensure that it's quite uniformed across departments. And I think that's a positive thing. So I just want to say congratulations to those members who spotted that and mitigated it. Also, I just want to stress how important recommendation 8 is. We've all heard the term "you said, we did." I think with consultations, some people might not necessarily be enticed to take part if they think, what's the point, because you're just going to paint the lamppost blue anyway or whatever, and not take part in that. And I think of all those recommendations, I think it's a great piece of work, but of all those recommendations, recommendation 8 is really vital to the success of enticing more of our residents across Nottinghamshire to take part, because we've got to show them that you said you wanted X, we've gone away and done some work, and we're now doing X. And I think the more we can do on that, the more increase in engagement you'll get, regardless of the 7 other recommendations. Number 8 really needs to be done properly to get the result we all want, which is more engagement. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that positive comments, Councillor Smith. Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. As I said, we seem to be doing better than most councils, even though the actual turnout response rate is very, very low. And I wonder what we're actually doing about that. I mean, if you actually go to page 13 of 106, where the actual respondents are very low. I mean, if you actually look at the under 18 years, 0.2. In the past, you might say, well, under 18, that's fair enough. But in the digital age, where people are actually conversing digitally at that age and younger from 16 onwards, which is what I hope we're actually trying to find. So just a couple of questions around that in actually trying to get the response increase. Do we have any strategy to increase the actual digital consultation? And have we set any particular targets within all these age groups? What are they exactly? So are we targeting various age groups to try and actually find out what the weakness is? And I said, just off the top of my head, and I could be completely wrong, the under 18 age group seems to be the biggest target there would be digital, but I'll leave that to the expert. And in terms of interactive, other areas, the neighbouring council workshops and citizens' assemblies are used. So are we looking at other ways of consultating as well within all this and any methods? And are we actually looking at other councils, how they're doing it? And I know we're not doing as bad as other councils, but there seems to be learned from everybody. So I'm just wondering if we do have any strategies that we're building on, both our own and others.
Okay, Jim. Yeah. I mean, clearly, we say within the report about the digital and the communications that we need to look at that and do a bit more research behind it, because it's not at the moment showing the results. When we're saying just on the email, we've got 140,000 people that we communicate with, yet we only got 2,000 responses. I think in relation to the issue of other councils and what they do, one of the difficulties was that they all do different things. So although the results, when you look at them, we don't fare bad on the number scale in reality, and population we do quite well in relation to some, but we're not actually comparing possibly like with like. But what we have said is, we do need to look about at what they're doing, and the under 18s issue highlighted greatly that we need to do some more work, possibly with schools, school councils, etc., to try and the youth service to try and encourage that take up. But I'll also just if you'd like to answer anything that Councillor in more detail, you've got the technical.
Predominantly, apologies, I've not switched on my microphone. So thank you for your questions. They predominantly relate to the budget consultation rather than the full gamut of consultations which are mentioned in the report as well, because obviously we do quite a considerable number of those which are targeted for specific groups. So in terms of, let's look at the under 18s first. The under 18s response obviously includes that under 18s population. So that's your sort of your preschools, your primary and your secondary age children. So in terms of engagement and consultation, we will be working with our teams within the Young People's Department and the Youth Service, as Councillor Guildford's outlined, as we're moving into the next round of budget consultation to look at how we can best encourage engagement with that younger age range. But I just want to qualify with, say, when we talk about under 18s, a lot of people focus on thinking about the secondary age, but the population does extend broader than that, and therefore we need to consider which age groups are going to be most engaging with information on the budget consultation. So we'll be working on that. The other question you asked about digital consultation, and we've outlined the huge amount of email communication, direct communication, Facebooks and social media to residents, but we are definitely looking and taking on board all of the comments to look at if there are other forms of communications, other methods of targeting, which will enable us to get the message out there and make best use. And the communications team do work with us as part of the budget consultations to look at those elements. And of course, the learning from other councils is a key strand, and the policy and research team did look at quite a few of the other councils' published methodologies which were available to see if they had got other areas we could explore, and we're taking on any of that learning that we can use to shape as we go forwards into the next round of budget consultation.
Thank you as well. Councillor
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'm happy to support the recommendations, the proposals. They're innocuous enough. I'm not sure that it's going to achieve a great deal. I tend to be a bit ambivalent about this whole business of consultation. I've said so on many occasions. I do feel that the electorate here elect us to get on and do the job and don't want us constantly going back and saying to them, well, what would you do? What do you want us to do? Can we do this? Should we do that? And there's a fair degree of cynicism out there, as Councillor Smith has alluded to, because you go out and consult them and they come back with an answer, and then you do entirely the opposite thing that they want you to do. And they say, well, what's the point of me bothering? And you don't always ask them the questions that that they want to be asked. For example, and to my mind, the classic one is in terms of budget consultation. Do you want to see an increase in council tax? And the answer would be no. But they'll want all the services and improved services that that the council tax pays for. So we don't ask that question because we know what the answer will be. I'm intrigued by this recommendation 8, where you're proposing to go back, and I don't know. It says that as and where appropriate. Now, I'm not sure what that means. That as and where appropriate. I should have thought it was appropriate if anybody participates in the consultation that we would go back to them, because I don't see how you're going to separate sheep from goats or whatever it is you separate these days, and say we're going to respond to some people but not to others. And I don't know how many people we had respond last time. I think a couple of thousand.
Yeah.
So are we really going to go back to a couple of thousand people and say, well, you said you wanted us to do this, this, and this, but we're not going to. And these are all the reasons why. Are we really going to spend a lot of officer time doing that? And if not, how are we going to tackle this? How are we going to go back to people and say, well, you came up with this idea, you thought we should do that, if you don't do it in that way? So it may be a very laudable idea as a way of trying to encourage people to participate in the consultation, because I know that people do. Well, I do. I mean, I don't participate in consultations. It's my time, and I know it not make the slightest bit of difference, but it makes people feel better that are doing the consultation. So I'm intrigued to know how you aim to achieve that, and how you are going to decide whether or not people are worthy of being responded to when they consult, when they participate in the consultation.
Thank you, Councillor. I think if you read para 46, it says that we already do that to some extent within reports, that we feedback on what what the public have said. No, it definitely in adult social care. There are a number of times when we've consulted on particular issues, and we've reported back clearly what the users and the recipients of the service have said to us, and the responses to it. So I don't think it's any different in reality, that recommendation, to some what we're already doing now. And I think what we were saying is that we do want to see that feedback, because we think that would encourage more people to participate. But again, it's all a trial and error, Councillor, on internet sometimes.
Well, I agree, but if we're doing it already, why hasn't it improved the rate of consultation that's the responses? It's evidently not working.
Well, exactly, which is why we asked for the review in the first place. Does anyone, Isabel, have you got any particular insight into that?
Thank you, Councillor Guilfoyle. Councillor Owen, your comments are specifically relating to the budget consultation, but the recommendation, I believe, sits across all of the consultations. And as you can see in, I think it's point 14, the range of different public consultations, which goes into several hundred of the consultations that we consult across the council. So I believe but obviously it is the overview's recommendations, that this recommendation sits across all of the consultations, that wherever possible and where appropriate, that feedback through established reports or through other channels is provided and is accessible, so that residents can see how their views expressed on a consultation has informed the outcome of the aspect they were asked about.
Yeah, but with respect, I think you did say that this was principally the budget consultation that we were talking about, and that is the main consultation that goes out across the county, rather than smaller, much smaller user groups that you are referring to and are mentioned in this report.
The scope of the review was in two folds. The first session focused on consultation more broadly and consultation and engagement across the council. The second session focused on the budget consultation. So there were two elements predominantly in the scope and how it was focused on in the sessions.
Okay, that clarifies that figure. So, Councillor Full.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to pick up on Councillor Ann's comments, I mean, I do understand your cynicism and to some extent your frustration, but I mean, I think if people really aren't listened to and they're not engaging in this kind of process, then I think that's why it's kind of a cyclical thing, isn't it? That's why they're cynical. You know, when we think 30% is a good turnout for a local election, I mean, I think perhaps we should be completely radical, go and ask people what they think and actually try and do it. I mean, that might kind of improve people's responses, mightn't it? So I don't think we shouldn't do it because, you know, we never do anything that they say. I think that's just ridiculous, and it is very cynical. And actually, it's not very respectful for the residents of this county that have some really good ideas, in my experience. But anyway, okay, so I'll leave it there. Just to say, first of all, I thought it's a really good piece of work. Thank you. I'm glad that you're open to this kind of discussion because I think it's been a long time coming, and I think very much welcome it. But I think one thing I do agree with Councillor, it does need to be meaningful. If we're going out there and asking what people think, then we need to at least have a go at actually taking on board the kind of ideas they come up with. Just a brief one, just when you're talking about schools. I mean, some years ago now, one of the schools I was governor of came and did a visit, and in the Highlands, thought this would be nice. Lovely to have some children in here, you know, can have a nice cosy discussion. Honestly, they absolutely grilled me in this council chamber, and it was brilliant, you know. And they came up they did come up with some good ideas, and we did it. And I think, and they were junior school children; they were not secondary school children. And although you have to approach it differently for children, I think we should be engaging with children as well. I mean, could we not ask all the governors that are involved, that are members here, just to go out and just say, to have a session with the children in their schools, just to say, what do you think? I just think if you look at some of the responses internationally, some countries get a massive response to this kind of thing. So something different is going on here, and it's across the country. It's not just here. Something is going on here that we're not getting right, and I just think we just need to perhaps try harder to go out and talk to people where they are, rather than kind of perhaps relying a little bit too much on digital. Although I know you do focus groups, and you do have quite a lot of people go online. But even the email group that you have, the representative group you have, that you can kind of join up. I mean, the response from that wasn't particularly good either, was it? So I don't know quite kind of where you go with that. Just going back to what Councillor Smith was saying about a centralised consultation team. I know they do have these in some councils, don't they? I think they do have them in the city, don't they? And I just wonder if that is one thing that's worth thinking about, or at the very least, actually having a central consultation kind of meeting from time to time to share really good practice. Because as you know very well, Isabel, the consultation, it's hard. It can be very technical. It needs kind of real thought, and I just wonder if you did that, you'd have a bit more quality assurance about how consultations were going on. Not necessarily for one central team to do all the consultations, but kind of to be there and kind of come together and actually kind of talk about good practice in terms of consultation. But no, I think this is good. Recommendations are good, and thank you.
Yes, well, did you want to answer that? Because we did discuss about the fact the resources that were available, and that basically consultation is spread across all the departments, and there isn't a central resource. And we did say whether was that the right way or the wrong way, if you know what I mean.
Yes, thank you. Obviously, there is a full gamut of different consultations that we talked about that take place. I just wanted to reflect back, Councillor Fall, on recommendation 7, where opportunities should be put in place that enable the council departments across the council to share feedback and best practice around consultation activity and resident engagement. So hopefully that could provide a vehicle or some form of mechanism for that. In terms of the resourcing, obviously, it's always a challenge. If you want to do something which is very, very active, it involves a whole number of officers. So we need to be quite clear around the purpose of the consultation, and how the methods that we're doing for each of those consultations, whether they're online or whether it's more of the engagement style activity. And you'll have seen in the report from the Children and Families team that they did a lot of engagement when they were talking about the family huts development and working with the community, and a whole range of different style of activities. So there isn't a sort of a one size fits all approach, and we do use the council's consultation toolkit as well as part of that. I have to say, if you said you were going to provide a limitless resource to enable us to put in place a consultation team, I wouldn't say no. But I am very mindful of obviously the economics of the situation, and what we need to do to deliver. So always welcome to take on board the feedback and routes forward to do this.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Councillor Purdue-Horan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and along with others, I wish to thank the members and the officers for their work on this project and report. I think paragraphs 20 and 21 are excellent examples of why we should continue with consultations, but I do accept they're not easy projects in terms of getting a decent response. And of course, although it's small in percentage terms, 2,500 responses, is a fair amount of work to go through to have a look at those. And I wonder if we go back to the last budget consultation. The consultation finished on the 2nd of January, and we had nearly 2,500 responses, and that's a fair amount of work, as I've suggested. But within just a few days of the closing of the consultation, journalists were reporting from a briefing by the leader of the council that in February or so, probably 6-7 weeks on, the council tax would increase by 4.84%. And I wonder, actually, is that where the cynicism comes? That, over the years, there is a perception that consultations are, in fact, a waste of time. The decisions are already made. The leading politicians go out and prepare the ground for decisions 6 or 7 weeks ahead. And Mr. Chairman, I'm going to support these recommendations, because I think if we are going to do consultations in the future, and I hope we do, then we've got to play our part by agreeing that they're meaningful and not just indicating that decisions have already been made before the ink is dry. And if I may just perhaps pointedly ask one question of that, are there any examples, even just one or two examples, of if that budget consultation was influenced by the 2,454 responses? Because I'm not sure there was. Finally, paragraph 17 talks about how the consultation was actually carried out, including paper packs to give access to those who are not digitally included. And the report states that printed copies were produced and distributed to all the children's centres and the libraries and counsellors. And I gave my share to others in Bingham. I've asked this question before. It was indicated I would get an answer. I don't recall receiving one. How many? And they were excellent printed documents. How many were printed? What was the cost in officers' time? What was the total cost to the authority? And of those, I believe it was 13 responses. Is that value for money? I just asked that question. Thank you.
I mean, the total number that was printed is contained within the paperwork. It is 1,500. The costs associated with that, I don't know. That's something that I'm sure that you can be provided with that information. We had the same discussion around whether the paper copies were a valid means. But at the end of the day, what we've got to accept is that there are many people who do not use new technology. There are many people who don't use a phone, don't text, don't, so somewhere along the line, you can't just cut off those individuals. So, the outcome of the recommendation is that we don't probably print as many, but that we still will need a printed copy for people to look at. And it is, and again, how we generate, one of the arguments within this again is about we then also need to work at how we generate the responses from those copies that we push out. Thank goodness you put your copies out. I don't know if you've got people to fill them in at the time. You know what I mean? You can give people, it's like everything, you can give people a copy, they take it away, have a look, and then just go recycle. Ultimately, perhaps we could all put a bit more pressure on people to say, tell you what, fill it in while I'm here and I'll take it back with me. So, we asked the same questions, but still came back to the answer that at this point in time, and I would presume for the next couple of years, if not longer, until everybody, and not everybody still will be able to use technical equipment, they will still probably need written copies. But I would presume that will phase out. I'm sure as well. Can you get the costs for council?
I can certainly look into different costings, but if I may, on the paper copies route, if I can respond on that. Obviously, we wanted to ensure that as many people as possible have the opportunity to access those hard copies. And we don't know if anybody maybe saw a flyer in a library and therefore decided to fill it on their phone because they'd seen the flyer. So there are those potentials. In the terms of reducing the numbers, there are a variety of ways that we can look at that, and whether we can make them accessible on demand or whether we need to distribute them fully, we'll look at as the most appropriate routes. In terms of some quick look, you asked for the number precisely of produced, and in the report it does say over 1,500. Obviously, in case anybody contacted us directly and requested any further copies, we did have some which could be sent out on demand. So we can give you some information on that front as well.
Thank you as well. Councillor Ungle.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I support your comments about the benefits of retaining print in conjunction with technology. It would be interesting to understand the profile of the people who responded, not just in age and sex, but you will know there's more. There is other reasons why people of a certain type would respond. So that would be interesting. Perhaps people who are more open just to responding to anything or do competitions. I know when I was 18, I wouldn't have responded. I got quite a lot to do at the time. But on this is formal consultation. I just want to reassure our residents that members are meeting people all the time. I meet people, and that's why I attend events and etc. to keep that communication. And I'm sure, in fact, I'm sure everybody else here does the same thing to find residents' views. So we have that other method of knowing what people want by meeting people ourselves and getting that feedback. But it is most useful to have a formal consultation in conjunction with that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Councillor. I have got Councillor Wilmot. Just one other part that you did mention. I mean, I you know, it was relating to the timing of the announcement after the closure of the consultation. One of the reasons why we've asked for the consultation to be brought forward, all members have, is to actually give us that opportunity before the decision is made to, or even ourselves, for it to come, so that we can also, because we have the opportunity now to go to the cabinet members and put a view on the council, the budget that's being set, as members of overview, separate to what you do when you're debating in the council chamber. So this committee has that opportunity as well. And what we wanted to do was start the consultation prior to that. This committee said that they wanted to start it prior so that we could get the views of the public, and we will be able to look at them as well, and we may want to enhance what the public have said, and we may and vocalise what they've put in writing and say, well, we're looking at your budget, but you're not taking notice of all these responses that we've had around this area. So that's why, with this process was one of the reasons why we started it, because we didn't think there was enough time from, like you say, from when the consultation finished, for even us to have the opportunity to discuss with the cabinet members beyond their decisions. So hopefully this will help that process. We've got Councillor Miller and then Councillor Carey. Councillor Wilmot.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for welcoming me onto this committee today. And I always feel it's a great privilege to be on any committee of this council. So thanks for that. Obviously, I congratulate the officers and members on the work that's already been done on this. It's a minefield. It really is a minefield and a serious situation that we can't get the consultation from the residents as we want. And the groups. There are hundreds of groups out there that we probably don't know a lot about and so forth. But it is a difficult situation. All I can say really is that we have to do more. Whether we like it or not, we've got to do more. You look at the present consultation. It's good hard work and so forth, but I'm afraid it's not working. We have to put that down. If you just walk down your street that you represent, any of the streets, and ask the resident there, what's the Notts County Council ambitious plan about? They think you're mad. They've no idea at all what that consultations or anything. So we're not winning there, but we've got to try and sort out. I mean, if you look at the public consultations and the targeted consultations, they have this year they've dropped dramatically. It's not good, not good news at all. I mean, do we go out there in the community ourselves, or do we sit in the offices all the time? Because there are big groups like the U3A group. At least have a meeting in Hucknall every month, and there are 250 people go. Wouldn't it be advantageous to get someone to go out there and talk about the issues? And there are hundreds of other groups that meet, we need to get out there amongst them. It's not we can't wait for them to come to see us because they won't do it. It's just not the community way of going on, you know. Yeah, we've got to get out there and really meet the people. It is an ambitious plan that you've got, but we love ambitious plans. Everybody should be thankful that the ambitious plans are out there to try and work for the community. Whether they work or not is another situation, and we as authorities on the authority, we represent people that want to know, and making sure that we put the people who are making the decisions under scrutiny all the time, and that's what scrutiny is all about. Making sure that you scrutinise everything that happens. But as I say, it's a very difficult situation. But we've got to get out there more, consult with more communities, because there are big meetings out there that you know. And one of the biggest possibilities is going out and meeting the faith groups. Some of the faith groups have 200-300 members out there, and are very much interested in what's happening around them. You know, given the chance, we should go out there and talk to them as well. Anyway, thanks for letting me speak, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Just a bit of a qualification around the chart table that's in paragraph 14. Actually, the 2023 figure is as of the 3rd of May. So that's the consultations that have been done up to the 3rd of May, Councillor Wilmot. I would presume, as we are in June, there will have been, I don't know, because that's only a month or so, there may have been another 15 targeted consultations and possibly another 91 other. So, you know, that figure. Is there anything that you wish to add, Isabel, in relation?
Only that the position is yet.
Sorry, I was asking Isabel. No, you.
Sorry.
Is there anything you wish to add, Isabel, or clarify for Councillor Wilmot?
Thank you, Councillor Guilford. I was going to point out the table as well, reported up to the 3rd of May. And you've mentioned, Councillor Wilmot, about the active role of engaging the community. And I think Councillor Purdue-Horan mentioned about how he distributed all of his budget surveys and information. And so we always welcome, particularly the messages being promoted when consultations are active, to encourage people through all different forms of awareness, including the direct contact through emails or through Facebook, or through when members are working with their local communities, to spread the message about, you know, the activities of the county council and ongoing consultations.
Thank you. Councillor Kerry.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I would like to thank, obviously, Councillor Elliott, yourself, and Councillor Pringle, who sat on the review group, and that, just to remind members that have questions and comments to make, they could always attend the review groups and join that process early on, rather than leaving it till now. I agree with all of the recommendations. We are opening the subject up for review, and I think it's encouraging to see that they cover almost everything that people have spoken about already today. So that they're already every little question and comment about how things may be able to work better are in those recommendations. So I fully support the review. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Kerry. Councillor Moxon.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to sort of very briefly talk about in my life outside the council, the company that I work for. We do this with our customers. We send out surveys to our customers, and we don't just sort of, well, we did start off sort of blindly sending a survey and hoping to get a response, thinking we're going to get hundreds of responses back and find out how good or bad our service is. And you've found that you've got 1 or 2 responses from sending 100 surveys out. So we have got to a point where we now send an email out before the survey goes. We then call the customer to tell them that the survey's come in. We send the survey out to the customer. We call them to remind them that they've got the survey and could they fill it in, and then we send them an email if they haven't sent the survey back. And after all that, we get about a 20% response rate. So that is a huge amount of effort to get 20% back. And you're also, we always, invariably, you will get customers in that they, afterwards, there'll be some sort of issue and they say, you never listen to us, you're rubbish, whatever. You don't listen to us, and you look back and they've never filled out a survey.
Yeah.
So, you can spend what I'm trying to say is you spend a huge amount of effort to try and get people to fill in surveys, but there are a significant proportion of people that will just never ever do it.
No, I think it's a point well made, Councillor Oxon. I didn't get your call or your emails, thank goodness. Councillor Butler.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think there's a real danger here. We're beating ourselves up a bit too much on this. I mean, and I fully support the recommendations, and it's a job well done. I do take some heart when you look at page 13, when it says that on the day the survey was open, an email bulletin was sent to 140,300 subscribers. Well, I think it's pretty good that we got 140,000 subscribers to a council email bulletin system. So, so these are people who at some point were interested in what the council is doing, and for whatever reasons, and we've discussed this morning, most of them didn't bother to reply to the survey. And I think it goes back to what Councillor Moxon has just said, and also Councillor Owen earlier on, that really, frankly, people out there are leading very busy lives, doing whatever they're doing, living their lives, and they're expecting us to do what we're doing here by running the council, and some will like what we're doing, some won't. But as we've heard, even big professional companies and businesses struggle to get people replying to surveys. So I suspect that with a general sort of apathy and attitude towards, let's face it, politics, people are just taking the attitude, oh, leave a council to get on with it. But so let's not beat ourselves too much over this. It's still a lot of work's being done, and I think we have probably learnt a lot from it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor. I think we've had a very good debate. Is there anything that any officer want to add? I think, Councillor Carrott, I was going to just move the recommendation. Go on.
Just for the recommendation before you, recommendation number 2, I think it probably should say proposed questions for the 24-25 budget. I don't know if that's
Councillor Cream, go on. Quick.
Just very very shortly, just to address some of the comments about the usefulness of actually the surveys and how people respond. But I bet you 100% that if we turned around tomorrow, and said we're not going to ask the people what they think, we would get 100,000 responses complaining about it. So it does have its value, and it should continue.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. And with that amendment to the paperwork, thank you for that, Councillor Carey. With that amendment, can we move the recommendation that these recommendations from the Scrutiny of Resident Engagement and Consultation, as detailed be endorsed, and that we refer them to Cabinet for consideration. Is that all in favour of that? Thank you, colleagues. Okay, that's carried. Okay, can we move then on to the next report, which is the sale of Top Wighay and the refusal of the call-in request. This is to advise that the Council Constitution states that the monitoring officer will submit a report at the. Thank you, Isabel, very much. Thank you. Submit a report at the next available meeting of the Overview Committee, giving details of a request for a call-in and decision, and that the reasons for refusal and be presented, and as such, the report is for members to actually note. I'm going to move the recommendation that we note the report. Is that seconded? Okay. Are there any questions of a technical nature? We're not going to open the debate and go into a debate on it, because that's not what we're here for. But if you've got issues, what I believe is of a technical nature, then the monitoring officer, I'm sure, will be able to answer that. Is that the case, Councillor Wilmot? Is it of a technical nature?
I'm actually speaking on behalf of Councillor Dave Shaw, who obviously isn't here.
Right.
It's a statement about the decision.
The issue is, I mean, I know what you want to do, you know, in that sense, mate, but I mean, at the end of the day, there were reasons which are explained quite clearly within the letter from the solicitor behind the decision. What I would suggest for Councillor Wilmot, not to stop members from discussing it, is that if I know you weren't party to the last meeting of overview, but at the last meeting of overview, there was another particular item where a request was refused, and we had quite a debate on that issue. At the end of that decision debate, there was a decision made, and if you look in the minutes that we've agreed, we agreed that there would be a review of scrutiny take place, and that would be done with the chair and vice chair of overview and others, and that would be presented and worked with the governance committee, which Councillor Owen, who sits on this committee, chairs, and that would give an opportunity for us to look at the way in which cases are called in and the process, because clearly there are issues that have been outlined in both cases around that, about timescales, etc., etc. So my view would be that if Councillor Shaw has got some particular issues around the decision, would be for him to actually come and put his case to the scrutiny panel that's going to be looking at the governance issues and the thing. He may not be happy with the decision, but at the end of the day, you know, he's also got the opportunity to sit down and talk to the monitoring officer relating to that as well. You know, so I'm going to, you know, stick hard and fast on that it is here for noting, but if there are any technical issues that you want clarifying, then I'm quite happy to do that, because I think there are some things, for instance, you know, the first technical issue was that there were only 5 names on the call-in paper, and that moved it out. Councillor Fole, you indicated.
Just a very quick one. I think. I mean, I can see your frustration. I think you're right, and I think the fact that actually it's going to this governance committee to look at again, particularly in terms of timescales. This isn't just about call-ins that either. It is across the board. I think a really good thorough look at review of kind of timescales to make it better, so we can make decisions better and get motions better and everything better. I think that is really important. So I think you're absolutely right, Chair. I think in terms of Top Wighay, I'm going to bring that up under item 6 because I think it needs to go on the work programme. But I agree with what you just said.
Okay, Councillor Cream.
It's on the same point. But on the response letter, the third paragraph on a technical issue, I've underlined very little time to undertake the pre-calling procedure, and that sort of that's an issue. Is there enough time to do it? Because the procedure is set down. That's the time. It shouldn't make any difference how close. The earlier the better, obviously. But so it's just on a technical concern that. On that particular sentence, because it really shouldn't make any difference to the process. There should be time allowed. If there isn't, that perhaps needs looking into.
So I made that comment in the letter, Councillor Creamer, because the 7 signatures were received an hour and a half before the deadline. No pre-calling had been undertaken at all. So I was just making the observation that an hour and a half was not very long left to complete a pre-calling process, which is an absolute requirement of the calling procedure.
Councillor Owen.
Just to emphasise the point you've made, Chairman, that there will be a working group, more or less a standing working group of the Governance and Ethics Committee that will be looking at the process of scrutiny. It's a cross-party group, and your party is usually very ably represented with Councillor Pringle present, who brings the views of the Labour group to that meeting. As I say, it is a cross-party working group. Our big problem is that the Ashfield Independents, or whatever they are now, don't always attend. In fact, they are frequently absent. And that is the forum in which any suggestions for the improvement and development of the scrutiny process should be made. The working group, and I believe you're going to be joining us as well on that working group, as far as scrutiny is concerned, and that's to be welcomed, will produce a report, which I hope we will agree as a working group, which will then be presented to full council, I believe, or the governance, the full governance and ethics committee, I think probably has the power to approve it, and that's when it will be. That's when it will be finally decided. So that's the way going forward. And so if members have particular points that they want to bring to our attention, the areas where they think improvement can be made, they need to speak to their group representatives on that working group. And I think that's all that needs to be said now, Chairman.
We've already had a discussion, Councillor, about probably a joint letter from yourself and from the Chair of Scrutiny to ask members and make them aware of when you're sitting, and to also say, like, members can attend, as you know, with the Chairman's consent and speak in meetings, but to notify every individual and say this is an opportunity for you to come. And I think that would all right, just like the old Councillor Moxon says, you know, it's a phone call and another email, but I think that would make sure that people were aware of what the process was taking place. Councillor Wilmot, I'm quite happy if you have a technical answer, but if it's a statement that's going to go into the reasons or whatever behind the not the refuse, but if it's about the reasons for you wanting the call in, then this is not now the appropriate forum for that to happen. What you could do is what I heard Councillor Fole say, that she's going to ask the members to say put that particular issue forward as an issue for scrutiny. What you could do is ask for that to come and be on the agenda as an item for scrutiny.
Well, obviously, I'm not pleased that I'm not able to speak at any meeting, whatever committee it is on. It's a decision that was made, and I just wanted to say that we feel it was a wrong decision, and we should really have the position to be able to discuss it and let people know that this group.
The decision of the monitoring officer is final in these matters.
Yeah,
that's it. It's done. It's dusted.
The difficulty is, as I said, is that the monitoring officer's decision is final, and the reasons behind why you wanted that is not an issue really for this committee. Other than to say, if you want to rehearse those issues, you could do that through scrutiny by asking for that issue to be put onto the scrutiny agenda. And I understand how you feel, but you know we're not here for you to sort of rehearse what would have been the calling. That's the issue. We're not here to do that. It's not. There's no calling. It didn't happen. The monitoring officer has justified why there should be no calling. We're not here to hear the facts behind the calling. So I know it sounds odd, but that's how I'm sitting. And but I'm quite happy if you've got a technical question, which other colleagues have had.
I'm just saying that I'm against what the decision that you've made.
Okay.
And I want that recorded.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Councillor Kerry, you wanted to?
I mean, just to say, in terms of the Constitution, I think this was approved at full council. So all the monitor officer to do is reflecting what this council and these members agreed would be the Constitution from that date forward until it was changed. Thank you.
Okay, then I'm going to move to move the recommendation that we note the report. All those in favour? All those against? Thank you. Any abstentions? Okay, one abstention. Okay. Can we then move on to the next item, which is the work programme? And Martin, I know you're going to introduce this item for us.
Yeah.
And
So
this is just to say, this is the first time that we've had all of them collated, is it not?
one is the one where you.
Oh, right. Yeah, second
yeah.
one. I missed it last time. Sorry. You're right.
Yeah, so it's just to note, obviously, that our own work programme, so and also the work programmes of the select committees, obviously, we've now come to the end of the current meeting cycle. So it's really just to advise that work is currently going on and will be carrying on over the summer to sort out the work programme that will be coming to the first meeting of overview in September for yourself to approve, and also to approve the work programmes of the 3 select committees. So there's been a lot of work going on, like getting input from departments of areas of interest that they might want to get Scrutiny involved with, and then obviously we'll be working with the chairs and vice chairs of all the committees, and then obviously we'll be going out to the members of the committees to ask for their suggestions of items that can be considered for addition to the work programme. So that's it really, unless anyone's got anything they would like to say they'd like considering for addition at this time.
Okay, can we agree that we discuss this issue then? Okay. I've got Councillor Fowle and Councillor Creamer. Is anyone else indicating if they want to add anything on?
Okay.
Councillor Fowle.
Okay, thank you. We have gone through the work programme for the various committees and for this one. We have come up with quite a lot of suggestions. We're noting actually that some of the scrutiny committees are finishing quite early, and some of the work programmes do look a little bit thin. So there are a lot of suggestions. I'm happy to hand them over to you for consideration. And we're just trying to be constructive. These are the kind of things that the Labour Group, the kind of importance to the Labour Group. So I hope it's helpful. So do you want me to run through them now? I can do. And certainly in terms of
I'm getting somebody saying no. I mean, if members are quite happy, if they've got a list and they submit that, then we can put that into the process. If that's a way of aiding procedures, then that's fine.
Some of them are for others as well. Just a couple of things. Just a couple of things to raise. Top Wighay in particular. And this is very specific, and it would be good if this was ministered, because I think it's something that is actually concerning everybody kind of in opposition here, because we don't feel as if we're kind of getting the information we need. So in terms of Top Wighay, how much of the costs change? I mean, if you look, I think it was when Kay Cutts was leader. It was the costs were 10.3 million. Clearly, it's going to be more than that. So there's big concern about the cost of Top Wighay. What are the expected delivery projections? How much of the internal planning designs changed? Again, that's been very fudged. And how has the intended use changed? And there's one or two things in here, particularly in terms of cost of living. One of the recommendations we'd like here is not for it just to go to the Ash Committee. I mean, in terms of cost of living, I think certainly it should go to Children's Committee. I mean, the impact on children in terms of cost of living, there's been concerned about recently about the cost of school uniform and the cost of free school meals. So I think there are suggestions here, both in terms of what we'd like to see on the various work programmes, but also on which committees they should go to and what kind of approach should be taken. So I hope you'll take it in the spirit, the constructive spirit they'll be delivered to you. Okay. So shall I give it to you at the end, Martin?
Fantastic, thank you.
Councillor Creamer.
Yeah, being we're passing the list over, I'll be very quick on it. It's just a question more than anything else. One of the procedures for council companies category A bodies going to the Government and Ethics Committee. At the moment, it's not actually on their work programme, so that's just a question: is it going, and really should it be coming here or not? So they're not actually planned for it as well. Just the other point, not actually planned. It's about time for its review, to see how it's progressing, etc. So can that be added to the overview work programme? So,
Martin, have you got any comments relating to that?
Yeah, the Nottinghamshire plan is definitely something that will be coming, but obviously the timings and when it comes and how it comes is yet to be agreed. But if that is in the constitution, that it comes.
And about the sorry, what was the order?
The category A bodies.
Right. Have you? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
That's in the terms of reference for governance and ethics, so it's for them to consider that, and that's why we're sending it there.
And that was the question as well. Looking at their work programme, it's not actually on it.
I thought we'd added it after last
You
time.
might have done, but it doesn't seem to be on there.
I meant we. I meant me. My team. I thought we'd added
the royal we.
But I'll double check.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. With that, thank you for that. Are there any other comments or suggestions? Councillor Wilmot, you did have an opportunity. I know you've heard somebody suggest that Top Wighay be put on the agenda. I'm just saying you've got an opportunity here to. Okay, so you've had the request and we'll put it into the melting pot. Okay. Is there any other? If not, can I say that we note the report with the submission of the issues that we've agreed on, and all in favour? Thank you, and can I thank everybody for their patience and close the meeting?